New York State Assembly taking action to block crypto miners from using non-renewable energy sources. The lower chamber of the Empire State, not the Garden State, that's a better place, passed a bill imposing a 2-year moratorium on new crypto mining firms that use carbon-based energy. It's now headed to the upper chamber, the Senate. Joining us now to discuss and give us more insight is John Olson. He is the New York State lead at the Blockchain Association. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So how did we get to this point? New York has always had this kind of interesting and sometimes contentious, actually not oftentimes contentious, relationship with just crypto in general. So what happened here and how did this bill come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a particular operation out on Seneca Lake, the Greenwich Power Plant, that was a coal plant. It was purchased, it was repurposed as a gas-fired plant, and then it began to partner with an operation to mine Bitcoin a few years ago. There's been a groundswell of opposition to this plant continuing to operate, and so last year a bill was introduced to place a 3-year moratorium on all crypto mining in New York. That bill has subsequently been amended and somewhat watered down. My thought is to actually get it over the finish line and get it passed in both houses. So now it only applies to electric generating facilities that partner with Bitcoin mining operations here in New York and draw power from carbon-based sources. And it's important to note that the legislation itself is an emissions bill, so it only impacts the air permits that are required to allow a power plant to operate in the state.
So now, are you happier with this bill than what would have happened otherwise?
No, I don't believe any kind of moratorium is good policy, especially in an emerging industry and one that's trying to find footing here in the state. The concern is that any kind of moratorium that's placed in statute can always be expanded or even extended. So a 2-year moratorium, which is where the bill is now, is kind of just a starting place, I think, for proponents. And we're very concerned that should something pass into law, that it's just step one in kind of pushing the cryptocurrency industry out of New York in terms of, the Bitcoin mining operation. But, we find that there's a general negative rhetoric around crypto and the blockchain. And I think a lot of that comes from a general misunderstanding of the technology and really the benefits that, crypto really can provide to New York residents.
The Finger Lakes have had environmental issues in the past, of course, and so as you can imagine, that there is some sort of there is quite a bit of soreness over its misuse and mismanagement. Do you think that perhaps some of the actors in this in the mining community may have overstepped if not the legal bounds, at the very least, sort of did really bad PR, if you will? In how they handled the situation, kind of made it hard for the rest of the community?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just an industry that wants to supply good-paying jobs to folks in areas that could use them. I think there's real value in partnering with the Bitcoin mining operations to help, these plants contribute to the grid. So, in terms of their own PR battles, I can't speak to that. But I do believe that, a bill that singles out a particular industry for its energy use is not, sound policy in terms of an overall state approach.
John, why do you think crypto data centers are being targeted versus the AWSs of the world, the Facebook servers, the Google servers? Why target crypto?
I think it's an easy target, right? There's a lot of misunderstanding, but there's also a general lack of knowledge. It's a very nascent industry. It's a very new industry in terms of public affairs. So, the legacy industries have a leg up in terms of advocacy and also relationships with legislators and policymakers. So that's why blockchain's here in New York. The Blockchain Association really wants to have those relationships and demonstrate the value of blockchain technology and the crypto industry. But as I said, a bill that singles out a particular industry, I think it's because there's just, there's no understanding really, and it's an easy target.
Mm-hmm. And I guess why is New York so hostile toward crypto? You mentioned a lack of understanding, but we also have the bit license in the state, and that has created a place where in New York, crypto exchanges can operate in all 50 states except New York. So Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, has said he would like to see the bit license gone, but it's a state issue. So what is going up in Albany that is making them so anti-crypto?
Again, I think it's a lack of education. I've been leading the efforts for the Blockchain Association for about 5 to 6 weeks now, and in generally talking with legislators, they just don't understand it. They don't get how it works. They don't understand proof of work. They don't understand that there's a whole world out there of decentralized finance and NFTs, DAOs. Like there's a lot that we need to do in terms of education. So I would encourage the state legislature to hold off on any kind of policy like this so that we can demonstrate that. And we're actually here in Albany this week. We're out in force trying to educate legislators, one, about this bill, but also about the benefits of blockchain, to the, financial inclusion pieces, underbanked communities. So, we're advocating at the $1 million staircase today, just to show that we're here and that we want to be helpful and partner with policymakers. So yeah, I mean the bit license is already a challenge. There's probably a couple dozen regulated entities currently, and I would say that if we were to enact a moratorium on crypto mining, that we're sending a very bad signal to the industry at a time when it really could go anywhere. And I'm thankful that Mayor Adams is an advocate because it has been helpful in, breaking through some of the barriers of education.
So what are the chances right now in the Senate for this bill, first of all? And second of all, New York was run for decades. It was basically a triumvirate. It was called the three men in the room. And that has since changed with redistricting and with basically the elimination of the Republicans, but not the total elimination, but the destruction of Republicans in the Senate. It created a sort of chaotic environment. Does that kind of thing help or hurt the chances for crypto in the future in New York?
I think we've seen quite a few champions from one side of the aisle, but I think crypto is one of the true bipartisan issues and technologies. I think it benefits everybody. And yeah, the political makeup of New York is incredibly blue, but you do see several, moderate voices. I believe the Senate leader is very measured and takes into account the entire state when it comes to policy. So, I'm encouraged that in the upper house, cooler heads will prevail, so to speak. We do have a bit of work to do, but we do also have a little more time. I believe this bill is not going to move as quickly as it did in the assembly. So, we're hopeful to have the conversations that, really open the doors to a much broader discussion about the benefits of crypto.